Hello,
Hey,
everybody. Hello, Joe. How's it going?
hey, Christina, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You know what? I have to tell you, real estate thumbnails still suck.
Yeah.
That's today's theme of the live stream because in the last few days, last couple weeks, I go through the group that Malcolm and I run together, that real estate mastermind group, and they're like there are some people that just are struggling with thumbnails. So I think it would be best for us to give them some good guidelines to follow right from the start. Even if you don't know what a good thumbnail is, if you follow these guidelines, it will really help you out. All right,
Yeah.
so Joe, start with the first one.
All right. You want to share the screen? I cannot see it. I could make it up, but
Yeah, no, I just get just general tips. General
okay.
tips.
Well, probably. Well, the first thing that I think that it's, and this is something super simple, but it
Uh-huh.
like making sure that your aspect ratio when you create the thumbnail is correct. So, like making sure that it's 1280 by 720. A lot of people do a square or they'll do something and then it fills in the gaps on the side or whatever.
Mhm.
So just starting from the very, very basics of having the thumbnail size, right, so that you know how to work with it. And that's probably a really simple thing, but I think sometimes it's something that's overlooked for a lot of people when they're getting ready to make their thumbnail is the aspect ratio correct, and is it best practices for YouTube?
Correct. The other thing that people do is they I'm just going to go through all the things that I noticed right away. When they're starting out on thumbnails, they go to some kind of thumbnail editor and they follow a template that they have
Yep.
there. So they just throw their picture in there and then they use this template, but it has nothing to do with the video, or it's just so generic and it isn't very clickable.
Yeah.
So I know you want to use those Canva and PicMonkey and all those other templates because you don't know how to make a thumbnail, but you'd be better off just taking a picture of yourself in front of a house than you
Right.
would
Well,
using those templates.
I think that's a great point, is that,
Mhm.
like it's what you're talking about is the thumbnail is almost an afterthought. Like that you've made the video and you've spent all your time on the keywords and the Google juice, and now you're ready to upload your video and you're like, "Oh crap, I got to do a thumbnail." So, and I don't want it to be whatever, the screen grab's going to be. So, I'm going to just upload something. So, it's like literally like an afterthought rather than something that is created before you even film the video.
Right, right. So the little trick is that whenever I make a video, before I even make the video, I do the thumbnail first. And matter of fact, I was just talking to Joe right before this started. This is no joke. I made a thumbnail for a live stream, and the thumbnail turned out so good. I'm like, I'm not. I'm not going to do this for a live stream. I'm
Yeah.
actually going to go ahead and make this into a video because I know it's so clickable. It's so clickable. So I think I'm gonna do
And I
that.
think that's the thought process that we have to get people to shift, like agents to shift, is like what your audience, like you just said it's so clickable, what it's going to do, it's going to perform well, that you've got a banger thumbnail, and now you're like, hey, now I just have to make the content for it. Like, and I think that's so backwards from what most people think. Most agents, when they're making their content, is it's not about how good the thumbnail is or whatever. It's more about how good they thought their video was edited, or what neighborhood that they highlighted or whatever. But really, what is the purpose of the thumbnail? Why do we put so much effort on having a good thumbnail? What's that purpose?
Because everybody judges a book by a cover. Everybody does. Like
Right.
they say not to, but well, I mean, we're human beings. That's exactly what we do. That's why people like rag magazines do so well. It's because they have these ridiculous pictures of the royals like falling, or they got a
Yeah.
booger hanging on their nose.
Totally
Something.
outrageous stuff that's happening, and it just stops you in your tracks, and you zone into that.
Run 100%. Next thing that people do drives me absolutely crazy. They write a novel on the thumbnail. How many words? What's the maximum amount of words you should ever have on a thumbnail, Joe?
Uh, as little as possible, maybe one,
The
two at the
max,
most. Oh, the maximum or the minimum?
the maximum.
Oh, the max. Oh, I don't know. I think it
No more than
depends on
five.
maybe two or three. I wouldn't put
Mm.
more. I wouldn't put a lot in there. I think that less is more. So the more you can use imagery to show what you're meaning, you have a title, and that title is what you can use to then enforce the thumbnail that you made, and to create that, even that more curiosity of like, oh, I want to click on that. So what I typically see, and you see it as well, Christina, is we usually see as much as you can fit on there, and then it's the same thing in the title. So they just say the same thing twice.
Right. They and I just was saw that in the group. There was a girl who was doing something about her specific neighborhood, and then she wrote whatever it was, like the 5 or something about neighborhoods or something, and then she wrote that on the thumbnail. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Let's make it better. Let's do this. No more.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, and I think the other thing that people don't need to get across is that the thumbnail image itself needs to really convey what the title is in imagery, right?
Yes.
So basically, when people look at the thumbnail, they should guess the title. So
Right.
I would do it like, this. I would make a thumbnail and then bring it to somebody and say, hey, what do you think the title of this video is? And if they can't answer it, then you've got a problem.
Yeah. Without the title being written on
Right.
the thumbnail, that it's just the imagery, or it's just you using elements of that. And I think when you get first designing and you first do stuff, like, I think people have a tendency to cram as much stuff as they can into a space, and they feel like, well, I have this space, so I have to fit everything into that. And it's a little awkward to leave stuff open, or to leave it to where there's not that many things there. And I really think that that's a hard thing for people to be okay with it. Look, when you're designing something, it's okay to not have like any words on a thumbnail. If it's done well enough, you shouldn't need any words on it. You may need, you may use some elements to help design it, but you don't necessarily have to restate what your title is on the thumbnail.
I have to show you this because, I didn't start off knowing anything about thumbnails. Anything. So like you were talking about the like, we're talking about all the things that I did wrong and that we're literally telling you not to do. All right, too many words right here. First one, second one, weird aspect ratio. You can't even read the top of the thing where it says ascension parish. Too many words. This one isn't too bad. Like, this is weird font. You don't want to do that. This one was the best one I did. Just a picture. What color should I paint my home? That was the smartest one. But you were talking about the pictures. Look, what is that? Who even knows what that is? Do you even know what that is? Like, I have no idea. It's a hardware store with weird stuff. You can't even see it. Yeah, and then look, all the words of this one, it was a tour of a house. So crazy. I didn't know what I was doing.
But I think that's the thing, right? Is it's like that's a perfect example of showing like what you don't know what you don't know. Right. And until you have someone that's been down that path and that knows, like, okay, this is a clickable thumbnail. Like, this is how you design it. A lot of people, like we talked about, it's an afterthought, but really it should be one of the most important things that you think about before making your content is, what kind of thumbnail can I get that will drive people to click on the video? Because there's so much competition out there. How can you stand out, or how can you tell a story in that thumbnail without being without trying to over explain or do all that stuff, and then it takes away from the whole purpose of what you're doing.
Another thing I used to do too, and I wanted to share this, is that I always put my logo, because I had my own personal logo, because I had a branding coach that told me that I needed to like add that to everything, this personal logo of mine.
Right.
And so I did. I had it designed. I had, like, because I care, I had little hands opening the heart, the whole 9 yards of the heart. I loved this thing. Anyway, it took away from the whole thumbnail. And don't put a logo on there. No one has a connection to your logo as much as you want them to, unless you're Coca-Cola, Pepsi,
right.
Any of those companies. Nobody has a connection to your logo. Take it off your freaking thumbnails. Take them off.
You don't see Mr. Beast putting his logo on his thumbnails?
No. No, not at all.
Even though everybody knows what it is.
Yes.
So I think that's, I mean, going back and looking at all of this stuff, it's one of those things where I'm sure in your mind, Christina, you were like, man, that's a really good thumbnail. Like, I'm proud of that thing. I like worked hard at it and I designed it. And I'm very, very like excited and happy about it. And then it's like, oh man, it didn't take off like I thought. How do you handle that when you have that kind of stuff, when you first started designing your thumbnails?
Well, nobody else was doing it. So like I didn't really care, like I was really proud of the fact that I learned how to cut out an image.
Right.
So when I learned how to do that, now there's all the software that does it for you. But when I learned how to cut out an image, I felt like I won the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these to me were a learning lesson. Like some of them I went back that actually were doing pretty good. And I went back and changed some of the thumbnails, but the ones that are just sitting there and never did anything, well, no, I'm not going back to that. I'm just whatever. It is what it is. And I just kept them the way they are. I don't care. They're terrible, but it shows my growth.
It's a journey. It's a
It
journey.
totally is a journey. Like, I started figuring out, like, I don't know if you see this one. This
Yep.
was like a template that I constantly used, which was like the big stripe in the background and stuff. Cause I was trying to do something more like Nick Nimmin and Brian G. Johnson at the time. I was kind of following their kind of lead on that but I didn't realize, that's not for real estate. It's for, their channels are for YouTubers,
Right.
like I wasn't connecting the dots very well, again, look, I learned how to cut out my image. So I was like, ooh, I blurred the image in the background. Like, ooh, I was so excited. And then when I did that, look, the video went up to 80,000 views.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, okay. So I really need to start paying attention to these thumbnails. And I always did this stupid border around there because I was like, oh, that's my branding. Again, stupid idea. Don't do that. Don't do that. But then, you can see where I started these like kind of template thing where I had these stripey things.
Yep.
And stuff. And then everything was pink, 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 pink. So stupid. But I learned, and everybody needs to learn.
Right.
And another thing too is the type of font you use. My God, do not use this font. The clunkier, the better. The thicker, the clunkier,
Yep.
easier to read.
Yeah, I think that people, not everyone's going to be looking at this on a TV or a phone or a tablet, and they all scale differently and look differently. But if it's hard to read, or if the color is hard because it's yellow and then you have like a lighter color that like competes with it, like the stuff that is going to pop is when you have like big blocky font and then like a little drop shadow behind it that you can just gives it a little separation, and then like whatever color you're going to do, if you're going to do that, and use text. But ultimately it's more about like planning your thumbnail out and going, okay, like how can I make this self-explanatory without putting words in there? And if I do have to put a word, how many, 1 or 2, 3, 5 words, whatever it is that you need to get your point across, how can I do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was super proud of this one. When I you see this next door one.
Yep.
Yeah, because I was starting to study thumbnails. I had just taken a thumbnail course. It wasn't really a course. It was just somebody that did a webinar, but they were like the top of their game in thumbnails. Like they were making them for the biggest channels. And I was looking at some of the thumbnails that he had created, and he had done a lot of these 2 panels. So then I did this one, and that video got over 53,000 views. And I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
And that was the same time I changed out that video with the tennis ball. So yeah.
Right. So I guess that's the question, is when you're thinking of designing your thumbnail and you're putting this stuff together, like there is a learning curve, and it's a process and a journey. So like, what do you say to the people that are putting it on there? I think that are just getting started, and they did kind of like what you did in the beginning. How do you get them to overcome that? And what advice can you share?
Well, the thing is that like with thumbnails, I would honestly say I would start just putting them in groups of other people that already do this for them to review it. I mean, like whenever you're starting out, like, and if you're like trying to come up with ideas, start looking at other YouTube channels that are successful and see what they're doing. So that way you can start off on a better foot than I did. That's for sure.
You,
Yeah.
I think that's really good advice. I also would probably put like a little caveat to that is make sure that you ask the, like what you're saying, the right people, because
Hmm.
everyone will give you an advice of like what's right or what's wrong with your thumbnail. But
Hmm.
the key is it is the person giving advice, did they have like, do they have experience? Do they understand how to do that? Or is it just someone that's like, oh, they're a guru, and so they're going to tell you that they're doing it wrong because they went on and, you know, I don't know, like just they're trying to sound like smarter than they are or whatever. What do you say to that?
Uh, I know that's, and it frustrates me a lot because I see that in Malcolm and I's group that we do together. There's people for some reason feel like they need to put in their 2 cents. And they've no leg to stand on when it comes to getting views or anything. I would always, you know, listen, but always put yourself in there too. Like I always listen to people even when they weren't even making videos on YouTube. I'd listen to what they say and take it for what it was worth. Is
Right.
this something that is helpful, or are they just being a jerk?
Right.
Because
I,
sometimes they're just being a jerk.
yeah, I was just going to say that some people just want to be mean just
Mhm.
because they can or whatever. And the other thing is that some people that you know, this is the other thing is when you put a thumbnail up there, if you put something up there and you're not open to like to receive like some help or to receive like some suggestions, but already have it in your mind, what's the point of putting it up there? You know, because
Mhm.
there are a lot of people who are like that just immediately start to argue.
Right.
Well, I did it because of this or that or this. And it's like, well, you know, we want to help you, but like if you're doing this, like help us understand the process of why you did that. And most of them are like, well, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Right.
What process? And
Exactly.
and so those are some things that we deal with. We got a couple comments, it looks like, from some
Oh,
Facebook
okay.
users.
Keep practicing. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Keep practicing. If the person is giving advice doesn't actually have a bunch of successful videos with great thumbnails, then usually their advice isn't going to be good. Amen.
Yep.
Amen.
That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I agree. I concur. It says, I struggle to come up with a thumbnail concept before the video concept. Plus, I hire someone to do my thumbnails. Okay. All right. So let's touch on this a little bit. So if you hire somebody to do your thumbnails, usually you have a content strategy prior to, right? You should have some kind of content strategy prior to. With that content strategy, you're already looking up titles and thumbnails that are going to work before you ever even hit the record button. Like our students here with our group, they already have a bucket of titles and they already are researching the proper kinds of thumbnails that will work for those titles before the video is even recorded. We're talking a month in advance at minimum.
Yep.
Yeah. So you
They're
should
they're
already have
planning
that
things
ahead.
out way in
Mhm.
advance.
So you should have that concept to be able to send to your editor. You shouldn't be having your editor blindly make a thumbnail for you and say, make a thumbnail for this. You should be researching your researching your thumbnails and have some general sketch at least, or other concepts of thumbnails from other channels to give to your editor and say, so make me something along these lines. So that way they know. Because a lot of times, even this is another thing too, when you hire an editor to edit your videos or edit your thumbnails, they need direction. You
Right.
can't just blindly give it to them and say, make me something for this. That's including editing as well. They need to understand the order of your the order of everything, and they need to have a guide to start from in order to make a really fantastic thumbnail. You may think it looks beautiful, you may think it looks very pretty, but if it doesn't work for that title and your audience, you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money because you hired a thumbnail designer to do it.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is there's nothing wrong with hiring a thumbnail designer or an editor if you understand the concepts and you understand the process of editing and designing a thumbnail. The problem is that most people just turn it over and say, "Well, I have an editor to do that, so I'm not going to even worry about that." When really you should be way involved in that, saying, "No, I need it to look like this." Even if you just draw it out, like Christine is saying, you draw it out and you send them a sketch of like, I need it to tell this story. And here's a couple examples of what I want it to look like. Because the more direction you can give and the more clear you are, the better the product you're going to get if you're not designing it yourself. And personally, I think that everyone should at least design a few thumbnails themselves before they turn it over to a graphic designer or any type of person to help them design these thumbnails so that they understand the process of how to do it.
I will honestly tell you. So I started in 2017, had no clue. The first year I had no idea, and I was just throwing pictures on the screen and I didn't really care. I didn't really think it's that important. The following year I realized it was a little bit more important, but it wasn't until the end of 2019 I really got my gear, like started understanding, and that's when I started getting millions of views, because this is exactly 3 years ago, and like 1.9 million. This one is 5.2 million. And it was
Hey, look,
exactly
that
years ago.
versus is a house I had. That's when you reached out to me and we did a
This one right here.
Louisiana versus Utah. Look at that.
I can't. Which one is that?
Down right next to that.
Oh yeah. This one. Yeah. But this is when I was just starting to figure it out. I was just starting to figure out who's watching my channel, what thumbnails work, what titles work. I mean, not every video you make is going to be a bombshell. I mean, honestly, let's be truthful. And not everyone is going to be, bad either. You really need to learn from each and every video and each and every thumbnail. And I learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot. Like this one was the hardest thumbnail I ever did. It was trying to get a tornado to go through a manufactured home.
Yeah.
And I had to make that up. This was like, I literally made that whole thing up.
I think that's kind of the next point, that like how important your thumbnail is it's a segue into your video. So you have to then fulfill on that promise of what you're telling them with the thumbnail on the title. You need to get that into your video. So you can't, like a lot of people will, they'll do a, clickbait and basically say, "Oh, I'm going to make a video about this." It has nothing to do with that, but they're trying to get something clickable. So it is really important that that's why I think it's so important to have your thumbnail designed beforehand, so that you know what the thumbnail is and then you make the content after that. So that, because a lot of people just don't do it that way.
Mm-hmm. This was one of my favorite thumbnails. This one right here.
Yep.
The housing crash 2021, what they're telling you. And this was 2 years ago, nearly 1 million views. Never made a housing crash video after that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people saw that though and copied what I did, and then they saw that it worked, and sure enough, then they all started doing it.
The other thing I'd like to point out on your thumbnails is when you found one that worked, then you would use a very similar face or almost that exact same thing over and over because it was working.
Right. So I did this little split level thing, like split on each side with me in the middle. I got this concept from looking at Graham Steffens. Now, he had something similar, but it was not the same. It wasn't the same. And this is right when COVID had started. So then sure enough, every time I made a video about this housing crash, doom, right in the middle, put me in the middle.
Yeah. And the thing is like from a design point, like that's actually called the rule of thirds. So you're basically splitting that up into 3 sections and focusing each section for a story to tell, which is exactly what you're doing with that thumbnail.
Yep. And every month, every little year, I get a little bit better. They start cleaning up. They start looking more easy to read with the eyes,
Yep.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. See, I should have done this one right here. This one should have been in the middle, but I didn't do it in the middle. I put me off to the side. Silly me. I had something working, but I had to change it.
Well, it's all about small tweaks, right?
Small tweaks, big peaks is according to the Grandmaster
Harold.
P. That's what we'll call him, Grandmaster P. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. So we have flapped our lips long enough. I think people really don't want to hear us talk anymore.
No, they would rather just us talk about their thumbnails, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah. But this was great advice, by the way. Like,
Right.
very good advice. All right. So we're going to do another little screen share here. Hold on. Why did I do that? No. Christina Smallhorn. What am I doing? Why?
Oh, no.
Oh gosh, I feel crazy right now. All
There
right,
it
there
is.
we go. Holy cow, there's so many new buttons. All right, let's go to this shit. All right. Ta-da! Maureen. Maureen Wynn, Central Florida Realtor, sorry. Realtor. All right, we're just gonna go look at her thumbnails. That's all we're gonna do today. All right, here we go. Stunning 1.2 million country home in Claremont, Florida. $1 million listing. I have to say something really quick.
Go ahead.
I know this is about thumbnails, but take off that hashtag $1 million listing off the title. Don't put that in the title. Put that in your description. Don't put it in the title. That doesn't don't do that.
Yeah, it's not going to help your Google juice at all.
No. So you give the thumbnail advice first.
Okay, so this looks like a home tour, right?
Mm-hmm.
First thing I would do is I like that she has the 1.25 million up there. Nice. It could be bigger for sure. I personally would take her off of the thumbnail and I would bring the house even a little bigger because you're doing a home tour. And then I would have the dollar amount. If you look at any of these home tours that are really luxury home tours, they usually just have a big home and then a big list price, and then it kind of goes in and out between the skyline and the roof line of the home. Just move. It's actually a really good thumbnail besides those two little things, I think.
Right. So let's just I'm just gonna put touring $1 million home. All right, I'm just gonna put that in there just to see. I'm just gonna show you what other real estate agents have done. You know, like look, this one has look how simple that is. He does not have his image on there. It's just the
Just
price of the
home.
house. Just showing the home. Very pretty dusk. And it shows the price at the top. With yours, your numbers were really tight together. So it was really like the numbers were almost blending into each other. See how his are very defined, and he even has a black outline and a black shadow behind it. So it really
stands out.
Right. So I would suggest doing something more like that. And again, look, he has it again, the same thing. See, he knows what works, and he continues to do it on every thumbnail. Here's another one. Is it the same guy? Yeah, it is the same guy. Again, same thing. This is not the same guy, but he saw what worked for that guy.
Right.
He did the same thing. A very thin black line around the numbers, but with a shadow. This guy's dominating this.
Yeah, he is. But
wow.
all of them are very, very similar, which that's what she should be like learning from. Is these guys, they're obviously saying two things, either touring or inside. I know we're talking about thumbnails, but that's also super important when you're planning is what title you have. So they like, if you see that you have stunning 1.2, it should be inside
or touring.
Either one of those.
Yeah, touring this $1.2 million country home in Florida. I would even take out Claremont in Florida.
In Florida, right?
Or Florida home. You know. Right.
But the blues are really like it all pops. I think it's great that way. It's just people that are there to see that property. So give them as much real estate, no pun intended, but like as much real estate for the house and the number for there, rather than, there are definitely times that you can put yourself on a thumbnail. This one is probably, my suggestion would be to take it off.
I noticed this pattern that you put these hashtags in here on the title. Please stop doing that. It's actually hurting your thumb. It's actually hurting your video performance.
Yep.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But I love the fact that she uses these jewel colored shirts in her thumbnails.
Yep.
That
they
really
pop.
looks nice.
They pop for sure.
No, like there's no distraction with logos or anything. They're just that nice jewel colors. Very nice. See, even the dark colors are nice. These actually, they're older thumbnails. These are quite pretty, but what made those really difficult is the fact that the yellow is very hard to read.
Yeah, you'd have to have like a really strong drop shadow or a stroke and a drop shadow, and then that would take away from, like, even the St. Thomas, because of the clouds, is hard to read too. Like I mean, again, it should be the price. This is just a lot of text basically. It could be just the price. Then you have inside. She does use inside on some of this stuff, so it's not like she hasn't used that before, but that's
right. But then she's just using that word, but the rest of the title is boring.
It's the same as It's the same as the other. And if you look at the other one, like, they're obviously using more descriptive and juicy words to get people to go, oh, I want to see what that looks like, rather than just a location.
Right. But like the inside, gorgeous chiselet model in Miliona, Florida. I mean, like it's not very juicy. Like,
and maybe she got coached that, hey, if you put that in there, when they Google it, it's going to show up for the, the algorithm is going to give you more SEO juice, and then you'll show up in the search. Like, I don't know what advice she's giving, but that's
or she probably just heard it.
It could be, but
following somebody else.
Yeah. That definitely doesn't help you, and it's not. And YouTube already knows where that stuff's at, so you don't need to put it in there.
Yep. All righty. Well, there's your thumbnail. Ta-da! All right, so we're gonna go to the
one more thing real quick. If you do want to have yourself in a thumbnail, I would make yourself so much bigger. Like, take up that third of the space, or the middle. Like, make yourself much bigger to where you can see the white of your eyes.
Good point. All right, we got living in Myrtle Beach with Mango Homes. Okay. What do you want to say about these thumbnails?
They're really busy.
Super busy. Like, super busy.
That's
so
good.
The title of this, like, we're just going to use the first one that was done about a month ago, says Explore Polly's Island in 3D. Full map tour part 2. Gonna give you a little heads up. Don't do part 1 and part 2, because when you do part 2 and they didn't see part 1, they're gonna say, I'm not gonna watch that because I didn't watch part 1.
Yep.
Yep. And yeah, I just think there's too much going on. At least you can see the letters really well.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely pop.
Yep. Like, this one still seems very busy to me. It would
be so much cleaner if he moved himself to the middle, got rid of which is it, and had two, the good, the bad, and him right in the middle. That part he did right. It's just that which is it just is cluttering it up, and all he had to do is move himself right there, kind of like that, like we were talking about, rule of thirds. He could be right there in the middle, and it would look so much cleaner.
Oh, you mean like the thumbnail I did today?
Yes, exactly.
For this specific live stream?
Exactly.
I even squished myself down really low.
I saw that. But that's the thing, right? Is like, you didn't have to say anything, because your brain already knows, okay, it's a versus, right? Or it's this or that. Like, so you can do that with imagery. I don't even, like, realistically, he didn't even need like good or bad. He could have like a check mark and an X, or like, there's lots of like little things that you could do to say the same thing without using words.
Right. Like yes or no. I put,
right.
You can, yeah, whatever you wanted.
But I think that's I mean, on that one thumbnail, that would be the one thing that I think if he changed it, it would look totally different.
All right, the one right next to it seems so busy. Like
Yeah.
there's a little thing there, but I don't even know what it's focusing on. I guess it's focusing on a house. I
I
couldn't even
think what it
imagine.
is it's the house, and then he's behind the house and it's bigger. So it's like he's zooming in.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
really, really busy though. I don't all he would have to do is get rid of the house behind him. I like that he's using the binoculars or whatever, but all he would need is like a little, like how he has a little arrow right there. Just do that little arrow.
Yeah, it's a like a magnifying glass. That
Yeah.
was what I couldn't figure out what that was going on. Another thing to be aware of, most people don't think about, is the timestamp covers up your word.
Yep.
That's like
So it's
something.
like, just take it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like well, so the Myrtle Beach revealed using Google Earth. So I would have been, see, if it was me, because you're using Google Earth, I would have shown the Earth with a like one of those push pins in the
Yep.
spot with a
Yep.
house.
Of right where it's at.
Yeah.
And you don't
Yeah.
even have to have that house. It could be anything.
Yeah.
It's just, it's imagery. It's just showing
Mm-hmm.
this. It's saying the same thing without having to say anything.
Mm-hmm. This one's much better, but if you got rid of all the words.
Yep.
Yep. Let's see. Yeah, there's just too many words going on with the rest of them.
But you know what? His coloring on his skin
Good.
and all of the stuff like that is really good. Like a lot of times you'll see like a really hard like shadow or cast that's not been cleaned up. Like these are very, very clean. Like
Yeah.
his images of himself.
Mm-hmm. And I love that he's just wearing a black t-shirt. So
Yep.
smart. So
Easy. You can
smart.
do anything with that.
Can do anything with that. Like, so little tip for you guys. If you're like, oh my God, I got to make another thumbnail. Like, oh my gosh, I don't have the pictures. This is what I do. I tell people this all the time. Go hire yourself a photographer. Matter of fact, just go ahead and get your husband to go out and just take a bunch of pictures of you. If you're like, I don't have the right kind of lighting, go sit at your kitchen table, open up all the windows in there, and just use your iPhone to take numerous pictures of you making all the facial expressions in the world. Store them on your phone as a folder that says thumbnail pictures. So that way, whenever you need a thumbnail, you already have your makeup and hair done. You don't have to worry about it. It's already in that folder, and then you can use them in your thumbnails. I mean, people, if I'm going to die and they have to go through my phone, they're going to think that I'm the most vain person ever, because I have hundreds of photos of myself making every goofy face under the sun. So
Yeah.
I strongly suggest you do that. I think this is probably what he did, because it looks like it's got the same shirt, or that just might be his dress code.
Yeah. No, it could be
Yeah.
either one. I salute it though. I like it.
Yeah, I concur. Yeah, but these are great. These are
Yeah.
much better than my first thumbnails. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is just like you like find a way to remove the text and still get the story across.
Yep. Did you say across?
Across.
Oh, there you go. Across. But it sounded like you said across.
I don't
With
say
a T.
across. I mean across.
You said across.
Across.
You did. You said across.
I say it. Whatever. I don't concur with that.
All right, here we go. Doug Bear, living in Philadelphia suburbs, and we're gonna look at his thumbnails.
Okay. We've reviewed his channel before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we did talk about his thumbnails too. All right, so right here. First off, I think at that day we were talking about your titles. Your title and your thumbnail needs revamped.
Yep.
Because this one, this reads like an MLS sheet.
Right. Right.
It reads like an MLS sheet, and then the picture looks like an MLS picture. If it was me, I would tell you to take that very picture that you have with the trees and everything, right? And then have somebody that's familiar with editing thumbnail software, and have the price of the home behind the roof line of the house itself. Keep the trees there too, but the trees should be behind the numbers. They shouldn't be in front of the numbers. So put the
it's kind of like a sandwich where you're putting them in between.
Right. So it would be like a sandwich. Somebody that's familiar with making thumbnails will. And I would make your skyline blue so it
Blue,
will pop
really blue. Yep.
really just grossly blue. And then with that, I would change it and say inside this traditional Cedarsville, PA home, you know.
Yeah.
What
I,
do you have to say?
no, I would the same thing exactly. I
Mhm.
think that's all. I mean, you could crush some of the colors a little bit, make it a little bit more green, even, and but realistically, those few little changes would make it look completely different.
Yep.
The other thing, like if you want to look at that, what does 850,000 buy you? Like the picture, it's really shadowy. So
Yeah.
like it's facing almost the sun's casting the shadow into the front of the house, which you can edit and fix. But I like if you got an 850,000, I don't know what like that price point is in that area, but it seems like that might be a little nicer home. So if it is, it's like, hey, go get a good picture of when it's really like sunny, and then do the same thing. Make the blue really, really blue. And I don't,
Mhm.
is that a logo up there or what is that in the upper left? I don't even know what that is.
Hold on. I think
Or is that like the photographer's watermark?
oh, it's the town name. It's the town name at
Yeah,
the
get
top.
rid of that.
Get rid of that, just leave the numbers. So I would bring the house down, the
Yep.
numbers up on the skyline, and get a better picture of the house during when the house has got the sun on the front of it, not the back of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Man, like in my area, $850,000, that's a nice, like, that would be a nice deal.
Mhm.
That'd be a nice house. So, when you get down a little bit, it seems like he's had probably a video or thumbnail editor do them.
Yep.
Little less words. Yep.
Yeah, less words. Get rid of this. I mean, the stroke around your body.
Yeah,
You
the
don't need.
outline.
Yeah, you don't need that anymore.
Yeah, that was a thing. So thumbnails have a like trends that happen with them. And in 2017, and even in 2016, 17, and into 18, the white outline was very popular in every aspect of thumbnail creation, whether it was a kids channel, finance channel, everybody had this white outline on them. And then all of a sudden it died. It was no longer a trend. Nobody was doing it anymore. It's no longer a trend. So I would just take that off.
Yeah. I mean, you can easily just get rid of that and add a little drop shadow to give you some perspective, and that will make that pop. And then obviously you've got too much text on the thumbnail.
Yep. I concur. Yeah. So this one too, like think about you said 7 best Philadelphia suburbs in 2023. Then you repeated that on the title, and at the beginning of the live stream, we don't, we now know we don't do that.
Yeah.
So I would take that all off of there, like all the words off of there, and just use map points on the little suburbs that are
Yep.
behind you in the pictures. I would move you off to the right hand side just a little bit more, but making your face bigger. So make the image bigger, moving you off to the right.
Yep. I concur. I think that a lot of times, we want like at least he didn't cut himself off. Like the
Right.
shoulder is still there, like
Right.
there's some really good things about it, but shifting over, making yourself a little bigger and then simplifying that would make a huge difference just by removing the text would make a big difference.
These two images right here are so clear and perfect. Like the casting of the shadow on his face, the
Yep.
coloring of it, the warmth of it. These are good. These are two good pictures. Yep. Yay! All right, we got one more. I think. No, are we done? Oh, we only have 3 people.
Three
That-
people submitted, and that is just fine.
Lance says hi, y'all. Thumbnail sandwich. That does sound delicious, doesn't it? It's crunchy.
Oh man.
Amy Hayslett is like one of my first YouTube fans ever, real estate fans, because she's a real estate agent too. And she's always been like super supportive of me, but she has to be one of the funniest people I've ever met because she has the best dry sense of humor ever. She used to make content. She doesn't do it anymore. I wish she would because she's so funny.
Well, I think that what we covered today is really just trying to understand and give people some a little bit more context of how important a thumbnail is, and that if you'll spend a little bit more time on the thumbnail and you look at take some time and look and see what is converting and try to replicate that in your own way, that it's going, because let's be honest, everyone steals from everyone. So it's not like someone has this original idea. Someone is always taking something from something, and a lot of times it's typically from outside your market, meaning like it could be like a whole different market, not anything to do with the real estate industry. It may be with the toy industry or something like that, and then all of a sudden there's this trend and you copy it, and then you're considered like a trendsetter because you've done something that no one else has seen. But really, everyone is stealing from everyone. It's just, how do you put your own spin on that with a thumbnail?
I have people that literally rip off every single title that I've ever made, and they rip off all my thumbnail designs. But you know what's so funny is that like other people who don't know me will say, "Hey, I just was on YouTube and I saw this thumbnail and it looks almost identical to yours." And I went, "Yeah, I helped them make it."
Yeah.
I helped them make it because it doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. We're all trying to do the same thing, which is get people to click on the video. Once they start watching the video, it's up to you to get them to stay there and continue to watch. They're watching at that point to watch you. You know, all you're doing is getting them to open the book. Now you got to make them read. You know?
Right. And everyone is going to have different flavors for who they like, and the types of personalities that they are like, oh, that's entertaining, or I like the way that they explain things. And so that's what's so beautiful about YouTube, is that it literally, you can get to know someone's personality by the way they speak, the things they say. And then it's, oh, I like how I like this stuff. I'm going to follow them. I like this. I'm going to keep watching their content. And that's, so it doesn't matter. Like like in our course, we teach that there's no competition but collaborators. And I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to think, is like, well, I don't want to share my secret sauce because then this person down the road is going to steal it and they're going to take all of my business from me, or whatever. Like what, like that's not how we see things. We try to let people know, look, the way that we teach and the things that we share, we're open books. Like, we'll share exactly things that work, things that don't work, and we hope that they can, that our students replicate it and find success. But it's obviously that flavor is going to change just a little bit because everyone's different.
And I want you to know, like, I want people to realize that we put our money where our mouth is. We're not just saying that just to say it. Because if you go to our website, Real Estate Video Geeks, I'm going to show it right on this on the screen here. If I can type it fast enough. Okay, here we go. It would help if I could spell real estate right.
That's a minor detail.
Yeah, okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to show you this because most people don't realize this. And all the time people are like, why do you do that? I'm like, because we're all work together. We're not trying to, I want to share this screen. Oh my God. Window, share a window. Here we go. Chrome tab. I wonder why this isn't showing. Anyways,
I'm at the edge of my seat. I'm in suspense.
Well, I'm just going to share the entire screen there because then it will. Okay, so like I said, money where our mouth is. If you want to book a call, look, you can book a call with me. You can book a call with Joe. But look, there's Malcolm. And you know what? Malcolm has his own course that he actually teaches real estate. But we know that not everybody likes me. We all know that not everybody likes Joe. Some people really do like Malcolm. And we want Malcolm to be successful too. And he's on the same path as we are as far as collaboration. And we're not there to like drown each other. Because like, oh, I know more than you do. Blah, blah, blah. No, we're not. So we have him here. There he is. Book a call with Malcolm. You can book a call. So
Yep. Yeah,
and
we
and Mal-
definitely believe that 100%.
and even our group, like the group, I started it. Malcolm made it 10 million times better, and we continue to work together to make that group incredibly good. Because we want to be collaborators. We don't even work for the same company as far as a brokerage is concerned. We never
Right.
did. We never did. So it's all about helping one another, and that's why you should help each other with your thumbnails, and you should help people
Right.
with their titles. You can't look at them like you want to drown them all the time.
Right.
Feels better to help people anyway.
You just want to look at him like he drowned him some of the time then instead of all the time, or
uh you know there are some people like, but I'm related to them, so
yeah.
so
Oh
anyway.
man.
All right, if you guys have no questions out there in the audience, we're going to wrap this up, but I'm going to let you know right now it isn't too late to go ahead and sign up for a course. All you do is go ahead and type in realestatevideogeeks.com. Make sure you spell it right, and like myself, and you can sign up for a course. We're into like week 2, or yeah, is
Yep.
it week 2?
Week 2.
Yeah, we're into
Yep.
week 2 right now. There's still time for you to catch up, and you can take it at any time, and you have it for life. You have
Yeah.
the course for life.
And
we're
and the
always
thing is that it's one of those where we have a different options now where you can choose if you want us to help hold your hand and go through it all, or if you're, someone that is like, I just want the content and I'm good at just going through it myself. We have an option. And if you're brand new and you've never even set up a YouTube channel, we have a little mini course, a little baby course for that as well. So it's just little, but we really do have your best interest in mind. We like the stuff that we're sharing here, like, is great, but the really good stuff is in the course. And it's not that we're not, it's just we don't have the time to share all of that because the course has like it's 7 weeks of 71.
curated, very
Yes.
important in order content. When we're doing these live streams, they're not in order; they're all over the place.
Hey,
It's
but
like,
it's still good information for sure.
right? It is, but it would take a long time to curate exactly all the steps that you would need. Anyway, so it's all curated, and we're there for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you want a channel review, if you want us to bring your channel on the screen, then we have a link that you can do that as well. We'd love to. They're free. No,
Even during the
no.
live stream, if you
Yeah.
find out like oh, I didn't fill out the form, just go ahead and message me on Facebook your channel, and I'll just put it up on the screen really fast.
Yep. I concur.
All right, Joe Eves, it was great seeing you.
Good
See
to
you
see you,
Thursday.
Christina.
Hey, if you guys have any ideas that you want us to talk about when it comes to YouTube and YouTube content creation, go ahead and put in the comments section after the stream is over with. Thanks so much,
Thanks,
everybody.
guys. We'll see ya.